Hiya. I'm doing this on my phone. I've not been well recently, so if you are not familiar with me, I am sorry if I look a bit bedraggled and a bit pale and tired and terrible. I've not been well, so I'm doing this on my phone just to get it done quickly. Welcome to Swansea Zine Fest. I hope that you're having a good day. I hope it's all marvellous. I will actually be away for Swansea Zine Fest at the seaside. I'm really sorry, because that means I can't join in with the quiz at lunchtime, which is sad. So I've been to Swansea Zine Fest twice now, yeah, and I really enjoyed it and really wanted to support all the founders, Kath and Kirsty and Morgan, all of whom are excellent human beings. And I really hope that next year maybe we can be in person. So they asked me to do a video, do a talk, so I will talk about some of my own zines, and then I've pulled a few out. Kirsty asked me to talk about punk zines, and that's not something that I know loads about. So there's a few things I want to say. One is that all zines are punk. I have this thing where I think a lot of things are punk that you may not necessarily think are punk. Like gardening. Gardening is punk. You're making something out of nothing. It's punk. And Kirsty laughs at me because I say this all the time. So zines are punk because they're so egalitarian. Anybody can make a zine. All you need is a computer or a notebook and a pen and a printer and a photocopier and a glue stick. Like, that is literally it. I don't need my zines to be any more fancy than that. In fact, the more DIY and the more like scuzzy they are, the better, in my opinion. So I wrote a zine a few years ago called Shy Punk, which was a bit about me being shy. And I think a lot of people wouldn't think that I am a shy person, and I kind of am, but I kind of fake it and cover it up and falsely look like I'm not shy at all. And because I don't look punk, I don't wear, black t-shirts and black jeans and bandanas and stuff. And there's a lot of reasons for that, which I talked about in my zine, Shy Punk. Now, I don't actually have any Shy Punk left at the moment, but I did write about zines and shyness in the first one. But I do have a copy of Shy Punk 2, which, have you ever made a zine in this third of an A4 paper format? Because it's so cute, but it's also the most ridiculous one to try and copy and cut and collate. So I talk about things that I do think are punk. What's in this one? Let's see. Emmy the Great. She's a musician. If you don't know her, she's great. Love her. She's about the same age as me, and I've loved her for like 14 years at this point. Big fan of Emmy the Great. Treating people with kindness, which is a Harry Styles thing. He has a whole merch thing about treating people with kindness. And then libraries. Libraries are punk. How punk is a library? And then I've had a load of things that aren't punk. So, like, I've talked about abuse within the scene. I've talked about Ryan Adams, who I used to think was punk because he's just this weird, cute, nerdy punk. And then it turns out he abuses women, so we don't have that anymore. So yeah, that's my zine, Shy Punk. If you don't know me, my perzine is called Opinionated Nobody. I do still write that. I do still have issues of that. I think I'm on like 15 or 16 now. I can't remember. But I do have like special editions of a zine that I do, so that's one of them. The next one I'm going to talk about is London Calling, which is obviously the seminal Clash album. It turned 40 in 2019, so I wrote this zine about it as a celebration. I do want to write a zine about the Clash and about how much I love them and about how much I've loved them for like 20 odd years at this point. But it's such a big subject that I kind of can't cope with how big it is. Does that make sense? So I haven't done it yet. So I wrote about the album and what my favourite songs were and why I love it and all kinds of things. One of my favourite punk bands is Leftover Crack and Associated Bands. They're one of those where they kept falling out with each other, so they all formed other bands to be spiteful. So it's a song of theirs called The Good, The Bad and The Leftover Crack. And the joke is, of course, that if you're a crack addict, there is no leftover crack. That's the joke. So I wrote about gigs I've seen, albums that I've liked, the fact that they are now kind of terrible, The fact that Scott's kind of disappeared up his own ass. My friend Ezra, who used to be in Leftover Crack, is now in Morning Glory, and once told me that he liked my dress, and I was like, thanks, Ezra. So those are my punk zines. I do also have a Manic Street Preacher zine. Can be argued they were a punk band back in the day. So who have I pulled out? I pulled out Scratch That Itch by Kathleen Itch. This is number 5, and this is about driving bands around in a van. So that is very punk. She also has a great zine called Agua something, which is about her time volunteering on the US-Mexico border, where volunteers leave water so that people trying to cross the border don't die. That is an excellent zine, but so is this, like this lot. And it's also bound like that, which is cute. Zero Waste Wannabe, that's really good, by ES, because being zero waste is very punk. Jolly Drama, if you've never read any of her zines, I think that's the right pronoun for that person. Her zines have recently been on the film Moxie, which is based on a YA book, which is about zines and about girls kind of reclaiming themselves. It's really good. The book is better, but the film is decent. And I pulled out this, which is about knuckle tattoos. So a little book of knuckle tattoos, 8 letters. I thought that was really cute. I don't know what I would have if I had a knuckle tattoo. I really don't know. Shy punk, but that's not 8 letters. And then finally is my partner's one and only zine so far, which is called Primark Punk, which is a joke that a mutual friend of ours called him. So it's subtitled A Casual and Non-Punk's Guide to Punk Music. So it's kind of got a lot of stuff about different genres of punk. And he and I have very wild and different taste in punk. So it was quite fun to for him to write. So genres he can't be bothered with: death rock, Christian punk, punk metal, rapcore, DB, electropunk, surf punk, punk jazz, dance punk, and bands that sound like Bruce Springsteen. That's offensive to me because I love bands that sound like Bruce Springsteen, like the Gaslight Anthem, who, by the way, are a punk band. I wrote about that in Shy Punk. So Lee is a much more visual person than me, so the inside of this zine is really beautiful. He spent a lot of time writing and printing out pictures and getting it all right, and it is very, very beautiful. He talked about Johnny Cash a lot, which is marvellous. So, yeah, those 3 are my own. I thought I'd pulled out my Bruce Springsteen zine because, like all good Bruce Springsteen fans, I did write a zine about him because we all have to. It's the law. And I would argue that Bruce does have, or did have, a punk sensibility, and that while he's not a punk musician, you can argue he's a bit punk. So, you can buy these off me. I'm sure that my Etsy will be linked. And also, I'm really interested in stocking more punk zines. So if that's something that you're interested in, then hit me up and we can talk about me stocking your zine. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the whole day. Thank you. See you later.